This is the Tom Anderson Show, broadcasting live from the KVNT studios, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have my friend Ambassador Francis Rooney, Holy See Vatican. He was there under President Bush. He was also a congressman. I wish he would have stayed, but he committed just 2 terms in Florida's 19th congressional district. I believe that's Naples in that vicinity. And he wrote a book, which I read, and I bought several of them and gave them away, The Global Vatican, an inside look at the Catholic Church from an ambassador's vantage point. Francis, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Tom. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you. Do you miss your, we could say ambassadorial days, but do you miss being in Congress? Because it was only 2 terms. I assume that you were with a heavy heart departing from that gig. That was a great job, and you did such a good job.
No, I didn't have a heavy heart at all. When I ran, I said I didn't want to be a politician at 68 years old, okay? I'm running to get the money for the Everglades restoration projects that nobody's been able to get done in 17 years. And we need a lot of money, billions, to build these projects, to move the water through and stop putting polluted water into the Caloosahatchee River and the Gulf of Mexico. And when I got that done, and I got an offshore drilling banned in the eastern Gulf of Mexico, those are the 2 things I ran to do.
Wow. You know, from the folks, you need to buy from Amazon.com, The Global Vatican. It's a great book. I'll put the link on our Facebook page, and we'll make a YouTube video of this as well. So it's in the link. Look it up, buy the book. So I know the answer, but for the rest of the folks, what's your family background? You have deep roots in America, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, part of my mother's family came over from Spain in the 16th, early 17th century, and my father's family came from Ireland in the mid-1800s.
Wow. Yeah, no, that's I always love to hear about family roots and family trees, and especially when they're of such longevity like yours to patriotism and such. Well, elephant in the room. For any all-star VIP like yourself that calls into the show, especially when you were a congressional member from the great state of Florida. Elephant is the GOP elephant. We have Donald Trump right now in the lead, ex-president running to be president in 2024. We have your great governor, probably your friend, Governor Ron DeSantis running as well, who I support, full disclosure. And we had Ken Cuccinelli on last week, who you probably know, who was endorsing Mr. DeSantis. What are your thoughts on this race? And have you jumped in with an endorsement? I'm sure you're friends with Ron, but what's your take on it?
Oh, yeah. Ron and I work very closely together in Congress, and Kathleen and I, my wife, actually were co-chairs of the very first fundraiser he ever did in Naples when he ran for Congress the first time.
Wow.
We've been friends a long time. I think he's a tremendously talented, driven, careful person, and I think he would make a fine president or anything else he puts his mind to. He's been a great governor in Florida.
Do you think that the momentum, I'm just asking you to put on your political communications hat, even though you're not in that business, you have as much or more expertise than most people because of your private sector experience and dealings with campaigns across the nation and in Florida. Putting on that hat, do you think Trump's momentum is going to be a tough statistic to catch up with? When I look at polling results, he's diminishing a bit. Vivek Ramaswamy actually is picking up. We reported on this last week, as high as 10% recently. And of course, Governor DeSantis moving, and I'm biased. I believe Governor DeSantis will gain much more momentum and Trump will be diminished. But just by the numbers, it's a pretty tough one to catch up to, Mr. Trump's numbers right now, correct?
Well, it is. You know, I always tell people if you get Ron in there, you get all the good conservative stuff without the baggage of Trump. But neither here nor there. Trump owns the base. And when they indicted him in New York, his numbers went up 10%. And every time they beat him up, his base says, oh, here they go, they're trying to beat him up again, and they get more and more firm. And I don't know who can get the nomination away from him at this point. It's going to take some mistake on his part, some different perception of his legal troubles. It can't come from the other candidates himself. They're going to need some help to have a chance of dislodging him.
Yeah, no, it's true. DeSantis, I'm on his mailing list, of course, and they announced a lot of Iowa, New Hampshire state representative, state senator endorsements, and he has a bunch of congressional endorsements across the nation, and some big names. Do you think endorsements, like Chip Roy, by the way, or Thomas Massey out of Kentucky, Roy's in Texas, do you think endorsements at a presidential level matter? It can't just be money, because your good friend Jeb Bush ran, and I really liked him when he launched, and he had over $100 million. That doesn't always work. I don't think endorsements always work.
It's not always money. You got to have a good candidate. Jeb, as it turned out, was not that good a candidate, and didn't project himself well enough. And then, of course, he got in that buzzsaw debate with Trump, who's a lethal attacker. It just wasn't Jeb's situation to shine.
I don't think Trump could do that to DeSantis, do you? I think when they're on the dais debating forthcoming, I think that's going to be formidable from both camps.
I think you're right. In fact, some of the stuff that's been out lately, back and forth, Ron's a tough guy.
He is.
And he's not, doesn't suffer fools gladly. I mean, he's all business. And I think he'll come after Trump big time when the time comes. Right now, he's talking nice about Trump because he wants to get part of that base.
Sure. No, it's true. I see that in Alaska, too. It's interesting. My peers, my friends that own businesses like yourself, I mean, you're a bigger deal than my friends with businesses, but there are, doctors, physicians, surgeons, CEOs in the oil and gas space here in Alaska I talk to routinely, not on air, but off air. All of them like DeSantis. None of them intellectually say, hey, we're for Trump. Shenanigans, debaucherous stuff, petulant stuff. And I'm not asking you to weigh in on his behavior or mannerisms, but these CEOs, your type of people, kind of cut from the same cloth as you are, they're just sick of it. So they like a DeSantis. But I look at other candidates, Vivek Ramaswamy, many say doesn't have the commander-in-chief or a young guy, high-pitched voice. He may be a tech smarty pants, but they don't see him as being the fatherly ambassadorial president over the U.S. But Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, he doesn't have a lot of pizzazz, but Mike Pence, Chris Christie, there are a lot of good GOP candidates out there, wouldn't you say?
There are, and all the ones you just mentioned will appeal to the traditional Republican base. Suburban people, business people, employed people, the soccer moms, the whole bit. That has been our basic core strength that Trump drove away.
And when I mentioned cut from the same cloth as you, those aforementioned friends of mine here in Alaska and in New Hampshire and in Texas and in Florida, they're not a big enough voter population to change the radar or to change the meter, are they? The key is the core foundational middle class, maybe lower income voters. That's the
that 35 to 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that 35 to 40%. I mean, I used to talk to the people in my district. I'd say, "What is the deal with you guys and this Trump thing?" And they would say, "He represents us forgotten people. The world has forgotten us. They call us flyover country. We have all these immigrants. We have all this complexity. We're focused on globalism and not individualism. You corporate elites are selling us down the river." That's what they would say to me.
Well, one other question. What do you think the road is for Ron DeSantis to the White House? Because I'm sure his team will listen to this interview, and I shout out to them. They're doing an amazing job. They're working their butts off. How does he win? If you were to hire you or ask you as a friend to counsel him.
Well, he knows. He knows. The debates have been very important at times. Not always, but at times. The Reagan debate where he said, "There you go again." The Lloyd Bentsen debate when he said, "I knew John Kennedy."
Yep.
You know John Kennedy?
Watched them both.
The Kennedy-Nixon debate when Nixon looked like he had a beard. They can be determinative. And Ron, I'm confident Ron will do a really good job in the debates. He's good at that stuff. Yeah. And so that's one where he may give Trump a slice and a half of his own medicine. I don't know. But it still may take something else. It still may take something else to knock Trump off his feet to have Ron be able to get the nomination. I don't know.
And with Iowa and New Hampshire, Iowa caucus, New Hampshire primary, and South Carolinian primary, that's still important on a national perspective too, isn't it? In terms of how they come out.
Oh yeah, particularly for the Republicans, Iowa and New Hampshire. For the Democrats, South Carolina.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Ambassador Francis Rooney, it's always a pleasure, and safe travels to where you're headed in Europe forthcoming. Let's get you back in the fall, okay?
Look forward to it, Tom. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, my friend. That's Ambassador Francis Rooney. Always a pleasure to hear his perspective. Folks, enjoy your day. Tom Anderson Show.
Denali Healthcare.